They're unloading a head right now.
Bob?
This is really old technology, black and white, 1977 camera. Hal's standing way too far away to do any good, but we love the effort. Oh, a good show.
Bob?
We're gonna have over 38 paying people.
Yeah, I really fucking hope that's the case.
Yeah, me too. And the big head is moving now, folks. As is tradition, big heads are always on the move, somewhere in America. I hope we're focused, I can barely see. Why? Oh, there's a... Oh, it's the plug. You just have to...
Okay, so you guys are going to start walking backwards. Pull table back. Okay, watch the pull table light. Put your hand on it. There you go. Looking good. Watch the table. All right, Crawford, talk to me. Okay, stop. Okay, stop. We're going to pivot to the flat jacket side. Ready? Okay, have fun. Okay. Pop wheelie. Straight up, I got your foot.
The big head.
Straight up, come on.
What a big head.
Here, guys.
What kind of religion is this? Oh, I see. So now there's a competition among religions. How American.
Somewhat Reagan-esque. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, they built it.
I assume it's got its attachment applied.
It does. It does indeed. Oh, it's just Bob, you know.
You did, and I'll tell you all my secrets.
Okay, that's good.
Here, let me give you that.
Yeah. Light up Doug doing his sales. There's Ivan Stang, folks. All right, thanks.
There is a slight amount of feedback when I say things like We hope you're enjoying this happening.
Church of the Subgenius has put on a wonderful show tonight, actually a wonderful opportunity for you to participate in the Oasis of the Slack. Everything you expect out of tonight will absolutely be here. It's you. It's you. We have Bob over here. He's overlooking. Not disappoint him. Mr. Stang. And he has some wonderful keepsakes for you. Way to be. Without further ado, I would like to introduce my good friend and yours, Reverend Crawford. Way to be!
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Oasis of Slack. Before we get started, can I get a mighty praise Bob from the audience? Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Oasis of Slack. I am Reverend Crawford. I'm very proud to be presenting this first Subgenius Devival here in Tucson.
Thank you.
Now, I know that there are a lot of old-time veteran Subgenii out there in the audience, those that have come to know and walk in the path of J.R. Bob Dobbs. But I also surmise that out there are a number of neophytes who are not familiar with the wily ways of the Subgenius and may find the evening's proceedings a little bit confusing. I would like to address these newcomers in the audience tonight. In fact, some of you out there who aren't familiar with the Church of the Subgenius may find yourself questioning why you bothered to spend 8 of your hard-earned dollars to witness this madness. To those of you out there who may already be having some weak-minded second thoughts, I say, hold on. This might be the most goddamn important $8 you've ever spent in your life. Also, some of you newcomers out here might be confused by some of the terms you'll be hearing tonight. Terms like slack, the conspiracy, pink boys, and face-fucking bat sperm antidote pudding. Now, I will briefly touch on some of these topics here tonight, but I'm going to leave the heavy-duty theological discussions to preachers more wise and experienced than myself, which is just about all of them. But for me, brothers and sisters, Tucson has always been a very slackful place. It's a place of majestic mountains, a place where we can see the beautiful desert, and a place of inexpensive crop.
Woo! And endless amounts, don't forget.
and it's an oasis of slack. For me, where else can you witness a beautiful sundown at Gates Pass, or spend the day enjoying the wonders of nature in the Catalina Mountains, or buy handguns, no questions asked, at the TCC? At least for now. Well, whatever brings you slack, brothers and sisters, whatever brings you slack. And there are plenty of others who find Tucson slackful as well. This is evidenced by the preponderance of witch doctors and telepaths and mind readers and all around laid-back desert rats that seem to populate the Sonoran landscape. For them, they too have found an oasis of slack in Tucson. Now, I believe that right now a brief digression is called for to discuss slack. What is slack? You hang out with subgeniuses for any amount of time at all, you're bound to hear the term, but you're never going to get a straight-ahead definition. Sometimes slack is best understood through context. What'd you do last night? Oh, I spent the whole night eating Cheetos and watching the Playboy channel. I was swimming in slack. Although for some reason my dick is turned orange. Slack is, by definition, indefinable. Like the Tao, the slack that can be described is not true slack. But for the sake of this little expostulatory rant, brothers and sisters, let us set this working definition. Slack is that which allows you to forget that you're surrounded by a horde of vicious idiots. These are the big boys, brothers and sisters, the normals, the conspiracy dupes of the conspiracy that seeks to steal your slack. And unfortunately, they seem to like the desert every bit as much as we do. You can see this, brothers and sisters, in the weasel real estate developers that are tearing up this desert at a rate of an acre a minute. You can see this in the idiot politicians that run this place like it was some sort of country club pinochle game. Regard, if you will, the state government here in the arid zone. We've got a slut of a governor who's ready to jump into bed with any developer or rancher that flashes her his rod. We've got an incredibly arrogant Speaker of the State House, check, ex-Speaker of the House, that blew $500 million of your tax dollars so he could get a free pickup truck. We've got this idiot representative from up near Prescott. Her name's Barbara Bluester. She goes around saying things like, homosexuality leads to cannibalism. Representative government might act. But worse than these, brothers and sisters, worse than these are the people that allow them to get away with it. We're talking about the pigs, brothers and sisters. I'm talking about the plush-bottomed suburbanites that want that big box store built over the playground so they won't have to drive their minivan so far to get a 12-pack of Twinkies. I'm talking about the suck-hole college students whose greatest aspiration in life is to follow in the financial footsteps of Charles Keating and Fife Symington. I'm talking about the idiot sports fans that feel it incumbent upon themselves to get loud, obnoxious, and idiotic when they've got more than one light beer in them. I'm talking about the snowbirds that have the streets of this town clogged up like their arteries, driving their Medicare sleds around at 15 miles an hour below the speed limit. Although to give them a little bit of credit, at least they bugger off back to Minnesota for 6 months out of the year. So what we have here, brothers and sisters, is a bit of a dichotomy, a bit of a conflict of principles. On one hand, we have the slackful Sonoran Desert, with all of its freak weirdos, mutants, and other worthy citizens. And on the other hand, we have the insidious influence of the conspiracy. I was asked the other day, brothers and sisters, if the conspiracy is still a threat. Hell yes, it's still a threat. It's worse than ever, and they're getting more bold and obvious in their ripoffs. Just take a look at the most recent election. Just take a look at the damn newspaper. Just take a look at the shopping mall that the conspiracy was brazen enough to name after itself. El Khan. I'm going shopping at El Khan. You certainly are. So what's a subgenius supposed to do, brothers and sisters? How's a subgenius supposed to deal with this horrible situation? To answer this very important question, I ask you to consider a parable. The parable of the sheep. Take a flock of sheep. You got a bunch, pretty much a homogeneous flock of sheep, all of them pretty stupid, slow-witted, following the herd, never questioning why. Now, this flock of sheep has a shepherd, brothers and sisters, and the shepherd takes pretty good care of the sheep. He makes sure that they're well fed. He ensures that they've got adequate shelter. In fact, the shepherd takes much better care of this flock of sheep than the sheep could do for themselves. Consequently, the sheep think the shepherd's the bomb. In fact, they come to almost worship him because he's so obviously dedicated to their care. But what the sheep don't know is that the shepherd has his own agenda. Sure, the shepherd takes good care of the sheep, but that's because they serve him a special purpose. Their wool provides for his clothing, and they provide their flesh for his consumption. And the sheep, being sheep, know no better. But every once in a while, brothers and sisters, once in a great while, a sheep will come along that's a little bit different. A black sheep. This black sheep's a little bit sharper than the rest of the herd. Now, he's already got a strike against him, so he goes out of his way to be as unassuming as possible so as to attract the least amount of attention. But the black sheep notices things and pretty soon realizes that the situation is horribly wrong. The black sheep has come to know the terror of the situation. For example, brothers and sisters, the black sheep begins to question the annual shearing. Sure, it takes place at a time of year that least discomfits the sheep, usually about mid-April. But the black sheep questions the need for this bizarre practice at all. It certainly doesn't benefit the sheep in any way. And the black sheep notices that from time to time, other able-bodied sheep in the prime of life mysteriously disappear, never to be seen again. Pretty soon, brothers and sisters, the black sheep is in a bind. He knows what the shepherd's up to, but he can't tell anybody about it. He certainly can't tell the rest of the flock, because the rest of the flock will just panic and become confused, or, more likely, they'll ignore him entirely. And the black sheep knows that if he raises too much of a fuss, the shepherd will start to take notice of him personally and hasten his own trip to the slaughterhouse. So what's a black sheep gonna do, brothers and sisters? Where is a black sheep gonna turn? What is that black sheep of a subgenius gonna do to get rid of that conspiracy shepherd and his flock of pig bleeding idiot sheep? Who can he turn to for help? Who, brothers and sisters? J.R. Bob Dobbs is the only resource for that subgenius black sheep to turn to ditch the bleeding, mindless flock of normals and bone the conspiracy shepherd in the ass for a change. This reminds me of a story that Reverend Onan told me. Seems one time long ago, Reverend Onan and Bob were taking a little walk out in the woods, and they came upon a fenced-in meadow of sheep. And one of the sheep had gotten his head stuck in the fence. Well, Bob, being Bob, immediately dropped trowel and had his way with the sheep. When he was done, he turned to Reverend Onan and said, "Oh, how about you? You want to turn?" And Reverend Onan said, "Sure." So Bob said, "Okay, great. Pull your pants down and stick your head in that fence." Okay, enough of my disordered ravings, brothers and sisters. On with the obligatory mad props, and then we'll get to the evening's entertainment. Now, brothers and sisters, it gives me very great pleasure to introduce the MC for the evening's entertainment, Dr. Howland Owl.
Yay.
Thank you, Reverend Crawford. As a former resident of Tucson, and perhaps a future one, I can join with everyone here in saying I'm sure we all appreciate Reverend Crawford's extreme zeal, because it is such zeal that prosecutes religious movements such as ours and gives them a permanent place in the annals of humanity. His story about the sheep is touching, and I can only add that the extreme care provided by some shepherds for their flock sometimes created a miracle. A wee little goat-footed one who plays the flute with horns, 2 short stubby horns and vine leaves in his hair, who capers on the hills. And this exuberance is what one should expect from the Church of the Subgenius. There is no mediator between humanity and Bob. In that sense, the Church of the Subgenius is almost a Lutheran organization, which tells you not to follow any particular pastor, any particular honker and shouter who tries to interpret the word of Bob for you. None, that is, except the one, the true sacred scribe, without whom there would be no interlocution, no intercourse between Bob and humans. And that man, that living saint, that sacred scribe is here tonight, and with humility and awe, I bring him to you now. He is the Reverend Ivan Stang.
There we go, man.
First time in Tucson, Arizona. I must say, until I heard Reverend Crawford talking about it, I was thinking I wanted to move here. Because I didn't realize the conspiracy was that bad. But there is something we can do to cleanse this, at least this room, if not this whole city. I'm going to ask you all to share a couple of old-timey rituals with me tonight. Because it's the first time I've ever preached in Tucson, I'm not preaching to the saved. I'm trying to save those of you who don't know what the hell we're talking about. The first thing I've got to do to cleanse the conspiracy is an illegal act, friends. Please don't report this to the federal fire department or the feds. But as Folks, now I don't want to make anybody self-conscious or nervous or anything like that, but if you could all, you don't have to hold hands or anything, but if you could, we'll bring the music down just a little, and if you could bow your heads and join me in just a short, heartfelt, solemn moment of sacred fucking noise! Praise God! Praise God! Praise God! Praise God! God, Bob! And I must say, this city has a much better class of God than I'm used to. At least the God of Tucson has a cool as hell bar. The God that I'm used to back in Dallas, Texas, that so many of our rival cults like to talk about, I'm just not sure what kind of a God it is. They seem to be threatened by Bob. It seems to be the kind of God that little old ladies, illiterate little old ladies, feel like they have to defend that God against assholes like me. Now what kind of a God is that, friends? So, friends, for those of you who are new to the Church of the Subgenius, there's only three things you really need to understand. That's Bob, Slack, and the conspiracy. And friends, you know, the church was founded back in 1953 when Bob Dobbs was seized up in the spirit by Jehovah One, the alien space god from some corporate sin galaxy, who showed Bob in a vision that for all of history, the abnormals and the weirdos and the down home for real people, the crazies, the cocksuckers, the misfits, the disbelievers, and those who will believe in anything. Friends, in short, the subgeniuses for all of history had had their slack robbed away by a conspiracy. What kind of a conspiracy is this we're talking about? Some people go, I know what he means by the conspiracy. You know, people who had Kennedy shot and who hide the crashed saucers in Area 51. And others go, oh no, that's silly stuff. He's talking about the insidious fashion conspiracy by which, you know, you're made to feel you have to look a certain way or talk a certain way or you're just not cool. No, friends, if only the conspiracy was that simple. Well, actually, the problem is it's all too simple. The conspiracy we're talking about does not even know it is a conspiracy because it is a conspiracy of dunces. A confederacy of those who just know that anything different is by definition bad. And so Bob founded this do-it-yourself religion, friends. He built the first disorganized religion upon a shifting sandy beach of hypocrisy, friends. Hypocrisy, because Bob's a salesman. Bob's the sacred salesman, friends. He could sell ice to Eskimos, hypocrisy to a Baptist, or hate to a subgenius. And friends, sometimes you hear us get carried away with hate. Because that's, you know, sometimes I wonder if maybe the conspiracy doesn't exist just to give us the energy and the fuel to fight it. Because we do get a lot of slack out of doing what they don't want us to do. Now, people get confused about what the church is about. They think, subgenius, what does that mean? Does that mean you're just a little smarter than everybody else, but a little dumber than a genius? No, friends! No! What we're saying is, the intelligence has nothing to do with it. What Bob's talking about is sense. Common sense, sense of humor, and, yes, dollars and cents. And I didn't burn all of this dollar bill either. So friends, and another thing about it is, yeah, it's like Bob is not the smart man. He's not your super clever guru. No, Bob is only one thing, and that is lucky. He is the fulcrum of all slack in the universe, and that's why so many people come and they go, oh, Reverend Stang, I want to meet Bob. I want to meet that Bob man. Maybe he'll sell me bottled slack. My friends, you bet Bob Dobbs going to get his slack from somewhere, doesn't he? Maybe you don't want to get too close to the center of the energy. But by the same token, so how could Bob sell you slack? The day that slack can be defined and bottled and sold is the day that the conspiracy is won. Bob came and comes again and again and again to explaining, to force you to understand that only you can figure out what your slack is. Now many people go, well, I know about slack. That's when you can, like Beavis and Butthead, I can just sit, smoke dope and watch TV all day. Well, it might be slack for you. Others, of course, the conspiracy wants you to believe that you can have slack if you work hard, obey the rules, get a raise, are good looking, have money, and your team just won the game, and you're drinking Miller Lite beer. No! Maybe that is slack for some people. But for a few of us, slack is doing what the hell we wanted to do and doing the hell out of it. Doing it to the max. This is not a bad job for me, actually. Friends, it's what I think when I feel the most slack is when I'm into that thing that I like to do, whatever it is. It might even be something that you do, ironically. But it's when you get into it, you're concentrating, and you're just kind of, suddenly you're in the zone, and you feel free, you're flying, you know this is what you were meant to do. Friends, that is the moment when you have Bob in your life. Hang on to that second. Don't let go of that second, and you will be in slack. The true subgenius has a great power that other religious popes would kill for, the power to fail. That is a great power of the subgenius. Bob Dobbs makes $1 million every time he screws up, my friends. And another thing you must know, another very important thing about this church. All churches have rules, a lot of rules and regulations. But in this church, we only have one, friends. One overpowering rule. It's the only one you have to remember. And I bet some of you know what that rule is. That rule, friends, is fuck them if they can't take a joke. As cynical and bitter as that may sound, that is the only workable philosophy. Fuck them if they can't take a joke. Now fuck them if they won't tell a joke. Friends, what Bob's preaching is that you not think of winning as some kind of thing that somebody else defined for you, that somebody else wants you to do. Bob wants you to surf what he calls the path of least resistance and follow the involuntary slack. Something may happen to you that fucks up everything you were planning, but at the same time, maybe it just saved you from a terrible lack of slack you were about to get yourself into. You think about that, friends. Bob doesn't care about your sins. Now, a lot of us have probably, even as subgeniuses, some of us have probably done things that we feel shitty about. Well, you should. But Bob does not come here to forgive your goddamn sins because he doesn't give a shit about your sins. He doesn't think you did anything worth forgiving, and he's not well enough connected to forgive you anyway. What Bob brings, my friends, is an excuse for your sins. He came and comes again and again to justify your sins, my friends, to rationalize your very sins. Oh my God. I'm so used to preaching to the choir, it's kind of good to be able to just explain the basics again. Now, some people say, well, I know how to fight the conspiracy. I'll vote Democrat, or I'll vote Republican. Friends, if you think that what they do, here's what the conspiracy does. They create an enemy for you personally. And then they create a little other branch of the conspiracy that's not quite as big of an enemy as those other guys. And suddenly you think part of the conspiracy is your friend. You think they're your friend, and they even pervert you so much that they make you think it's natural to go to work and sweat away half your life for something you don't give a shit about. Friends, when we last year, we met a wise man, a man of true slack. We call him the Saint Jeroen van Braam. It's easy to have a lot of slack in Holland, actually, but Jeroen had a word of wisdom that we've been quoting ever since. It's almost as good as fuck 'em if they can't take a joke. Jeroen van Braam stood in the streets of Amsterdam and he said, "You know, my friend, you have to shout and make a lot of noise or whatever, because when you die, you shut up like hell." Friends, hang on to your every waking minute and just pay attention. That's all Bob's asking from you, my friend. And that and $30 to become an ordained subgenius minister, but I'll probably let some of the younger preachers get into that. I am going to come back up here on stage after a couple of bands, friends, and I will preach to the choir. I have a few things to say about some new discoveries in slack. But in the meantime, I think we're going to stay on our schedule. I'm going to skedaddle out of here for right now because I believe we have is it fire we have? Yes? Or, well, hell, maybe not. Who cares, friends? Here's the point. The point is that man Bob! That man Bob is the only point. I can go on for hours about the conspiracy is this, slack is that. But the only thing that counts is that you understand that man Bob. You don't question Bob. If he says to jump off the cliff, you do it. Well, actually, but friends, and the next time when your buddies come up to you and go, "Man, I just don't understand that Bob shit." It's actually very simple. All you have to do is set them down and make them look at that face. And I don't mean just glance at it. I mean really look into his eyes. Feel what is coming out of the pupils of those eyes. And if you make them look at Bob, my friends, they will see. They will see. Praise Bob! Eleanor! There's supposed to be fire by Eleanor up here. Eleanor! No? It's an emergency, friends. It's an emergency. Wait.
Thank you, Reverend Stang. Ivan Stang, the Stang of Stangs. And what he said is perfectly true, of course. Now, as a historical note, an early subgenius was that famous alchemist and philosopher, Theophrastus Bombastus von Hohenheim, otherwise called Paracelsus. And he understood that matter was arranged in 4 states: earth, water, air, and fire. And we believe this too. That is to say, we believe in solids, liquids, gases, and fire, energy in a free state. He also believed that these states of matter were inhabited by certain beings: undines, gnomes, salamanders, water spirits, and of course the spirits of fire.
I have what's in store straight from the power core. I've stolen all
Anti-Muzak Serum.
Government setting on the fact that it's tended.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Church of the Subgenius has spared no pains to bring you this show. I can tell you, quite honestly, that this is the finest exhibition of its kind which has ever appeared before the public. But you should not think that all we have to offer tonight is a succession of bloviating blowhards, one after the other, sermonizing, punctuated by musical sequences. Because now we are going to bring you something different. Perhaps you have noticed the enormous head over there in the corner, the gigantic effigy of J.R. Dobbs himself. Although we do not expect you to believe that this is Bob, we wish you to understand that it is a kind of antenna in which we hope to capture some of the essence of the Saint of Sales himself. And what we are going to bring before you now, from our great sister city to the northwest, San Francisco, is nothing more and nothing less than a game show. We will ask for a little bit of audience participation because we need 2 contestants. And now I'm going to turn you over to my performance partner of long standing in that great city by the bay. He is that loser extraordinaire, that swiveling hipster, my performance and golfing partner, Chicken John.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming to our stupid show. Are you guys ready to rock? Are you guys ready to rock out? Are you ready to rock out with your cock out? Alright, let's see it right there. Right now, come on. Come on, what happened? A minute ago you were ready to rock out with your cock out, man. Dude, man, you lost the inspiration. His girlfriend's standing in front of him. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know what happened. We used to have some lights, and now we don't have any lights, and there's some strange music playing. I guess that's just the unlikely succession of chaos that seems to rain upon me constantly, ladies and gentlemen. Are we kidding with this music? Can we turn this off? Is that like, you know, because it's hard to stand up here, and it's not easy. But before we start, ladies and gentlemen, in 1997, the Circus Ridiculous, which was under my misdirection, came to town and we promised Tucson a giant life-size game of mousetrap. Does anybody remember? Well, then this isn't going to be funny at all. Which actually might end up being funnier still. Well, anyhow, ladies and gentlemen, I promised you a life-size giant game of mousetrap. 30 feet tall, made of steel, perpetual motion Rube Goldberg thing, and it didn't make it because the guys who built it I had to like dump them off in Phoenix, and the mousetrap actually stayed in the parking lot of the ice house there for about 3 years before they picked it up. Isn't it exciting? So, ladies and gentlemen, I put it to you, who's ready to compete for these fabulous prizes? Okay. And what's your name, sir? I did that on purpose, really I did. The Right Reverend Father Pastor Pam. Ladies and gentlemen, this guy here has agreed to be part of our game show. And I'm gonna write a little name tag for you here if I can find my pen. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I need one more contestant. Are you guys ready to compete for valuable prizes? Ladies and gentlemen, Tucson! Whatever! Civic pride! And what's your name, Ladies and gentlemen, we have Lizzie here. Let's make a name tag for Lizzie. Alright, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. And now we're just about ready to start. We just need a scorekeeper, and we're ready to go. Yes, come on up here. Find someplace to sit. So this has all the workings of a game show. We have contestants, we have our scorekeeper, and ladies and gentlemen, we have a giant Bob Dobbs head. Okay. Now, ladies and gentlemen, in order for me to properly do this game show right, I need Reverend Ivan Stang. Is Stang available? What happened to Stang? Ladies and gentlemen, Reverend Ivan Stang. See if that microphone can work. Right here.
We have slack! Great! Oh. It's so great to be back here on stage in the Chicken Shot Game Show!
Okay.
Great, no music.
What lucky sons of
What is...
bitches.
I can't deal with this. It's you! It's the keyboard that's making the feedback. I didn't know. No, you can make the feedback. I just thought it was the goddamn microphone. I thought it was the bass. I thought it was the DJ. God damn it.
It was the devil!
Jesus Christ. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we flipped a coin backstage, and we decided that our lovely slut would go first. Are you ready to compete for valuable prizes? Sure. Sure, she says. Okay. Reverend Stang, are you ready to make this thing entertaining?
I'll try to help, Chicken Dog.
I can use as much help as I possibly can. All right, ladies and gentlemen, our first question in the sub-genius category. Are you ready? Let's show them the scoreboard. Here we go. Okay, so. Okay. The Reverend Jerry Falwell has accused popular TV star Tinky Winky of the hit series Teletubbies of homosexual tendencies. Now, from the lips of Dobbs himself, we ask, is Tinky Winky really gay?
No.
The answer is no. Now, ladies and gentlemen, in order to find out if she is correct, and we'll get a score on our board, we will turn the question over to Ivan Stang, and Ivan Stang will ask the Godhead himself. And Ivan Stang will channel the antenna. Ivan Stang, do your thing.
Dobbs! Oh, Dobbs! Great enslackened one! Living avatar of slack! I beseech that you come down at risk of assassination, enter the vessel of this great papier-mâché head, and grant to us the wisdom that we must know. Is that fine actor known as Tinky Winky truly of what is known as the gay sexual persuasion, Bob?
He's kind of like from Brooklyn or something.
No, I'm not from fucking Brooklyn. Tucson.
You're a native of Tucson?
No shit, no. I came here from New Jersey.
What exit?
Well, I spent 30 years in New Jersey. That was 31 years too damn long.
Okay, you gotta move on here. Okay. Our next question goes to our next victim here. Are you ready to compete for valueless prizes? Okay, your question is, why did the world not end as predicted in Subgenius scripture on July 5th, 1998? What happened to X Day?
I think that probably the Anti-Bob had put false messages in the original book. And so, what can you expect from the Anti-Bob? And so I think it was a falsity. The Anti-Bob got in there.
Ladies and gentlemen, actually an intelligent answer from a guy who's got a hippie shirt and beard and a surfer haircut. Let's hear it for him, ladies and gentlemen. Reverend Stang, can you please take over?
Oh, dogs! Oh, great big piping face of dogs! If in fact X Day did not happen, if in fact July 5th, 1998 did go by, and the men from Planet X did not come down and save the subgeniuses, and you yourself promised, Bob, was it because the Anti-Bob got him to change the dates in the book of the subgenius, Bob?
The answer was ingenious. But the answer was wrong. There is no impurity in the sacred scriptures. I am Bob, who led thee out of bigness, and I say unto you that X Day began as ordained and is happening now. Ye witless fools, the signs of destruction are around you, and Bob has spoken.
So, what was the answer? Was that?
Somebody fucked up!
Well, leave it up to the scorekeeper. Was it right or wrong?
Well, I think it was pretty fucking wrong because he was
Okay, I guess it was wrong.
No doubt is left.
Okay, so...
For once, Bob spoke unambiguously about something. But we shall join those extras this July 5th and brush the nudist camp of Brushwood in Sherman, New York. See you there. With the show.
My God, this announcement paid for by the Sherman, New York Foundation to host Subgenius and sell cigarettes and snacks at the Quickie Mart. Thank you. Okay, so we're back to you. How you doing? Are you happy?
Happy, yeah.
Are you bubbling over with joy?
Sure.
Are you sweating in all the right places?
Sure.
Do you say yes to everything charming young game show hosts have?
Yes! No.
Just like all the girls. All right, here's your question. Why? That was the old question. Ladies and gentlemen, it's pretty low that this is what we have to do to entertain you. I want to just share that with you. I felt the low thing, and I'll get back. No budget. Okay, here's your question. If I am here at this show talking to Bob, then how come I don't feel like I'm getting any slack? Let me ask it again. If I am here at this show talking to Bob, how come I don't feel like I'm getting any slack?
There's a big one.
Robin? Is that your answer?
That's my answer. You're not changing. Oh, dogs! Could it be that even yet, though this woman is sitting in the very presence of your glowing pipesmanship, could it yet be that she is simply not, shall we quote, tuned in, unquote, Bob?
That is known, but wot ye well, there is indeed slack. Slack even when unknown, radiates from the presence of Bob and his ministers. She may not be tuned in, but she has only begun the lifelong bath in the flux of slack. She is both correct and incorrect, but that's better than anyone else so far, and I, that outspoken.
He has spoken ambiguously. We know it isn't true. For even though one even though they feel no slack, even those who feel no slack will be ruptured on July 5th if they have spent their $30 to Bob. And proof the next day shall happen is the fact that we've been reduced to doing this disgusting game show routine.
I agree. Hey, what was that address in down? What was that P.O. box?
They'll never remember their own
Yeah. All right, sir. Well, hold on. So what's the score now?
Well, I would say...
This is the most confusing, fucked up thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Look at
Praise
this
God!
guy is insane.
A true genius!
Oh, praise God. You're goddamn
He was
right.
born with the...
You're taking fucking notes. You're taking notes. You're out of control, man.
I'm not out of control. This is what happens when you have a calculus student who gets into slack from Bob.
Hold on, wait a minute. I picked the calculus guy for the scorekeeper? Huh? Right here. That's why I make the big fucking buck, man. Okay. So what's the score anyhow? Simple. The simple version. No quantum something.
Well, she's got half one answer right, and he has one whole answer wrong. So, you know, she's, if you say the right is S, then she is half S.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jersey! Half S. Alright, so you got half an S that you're dealing with here. So you got to beat a C, I think. Or one backwards. Okay, are you ready? I'm ready. Okay, your question is, sir, what is the original spelling of Billy Idol's last name? E-Y-D-Y-L-L. Reverend Stang?
E-Y-D-Y-L-L. Bob, could that in fact be the original spelling of that somewhat derivative of what Max spelled known as Billy Idol?
What do you take me for? That is as wrong as can be. I have spoken. Cow down, chicken. Cow down, the truth.
The truth is, the original spelling of Billy Idol's last name is the only other spelling of the word idol, I-D-L-E. It was a trick question.
Yeah, like Eric Idle. I mean, what's the problem?
Bob has spoken. All right, how we doing, Stan? You okay?
I think it's almost time to stop!
Okay.
So,
So we need to have one more question to break the tie, right?
Now, what's the question?
You don't. No, I tell them the question, but you have to agree with me. So it's a tie, right?
Yeah, it's a tie, so part. So ask these stupid idiots one question each.
And I'm the insultant here. I'm a trained insultant. I'm a confusionist. Okay, so, all right, last question for the tiebreaker round. Pretend the bell. Okay. Goes to you, and this is for everything. The whole thing. All of it. The whole thing, okay. And the question is, just what does Bob smoke in that pipe of his? Dun, 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 dun. All right, what's the answer?
Herbs.
Herbs. Hey, sit down, sir.
Be more precise?
You want you to be more precise.
He's listening.
Do you want to know what kind of herbs? More precise.
You are speaking to Bob Dobbs. Here, you should refer to him as sir or something. He wants to know for you to be more specific. Can you be more specific? Do you have a problem with people entering your space?
No.
What is it? What? Marijuana? Is that your answer? No. What the hell?
Well, even though I would prefer to hope that you actually merely smoke something like cheap bargain riff cherry blend in that vile sacred pipe, is it possibly true that you, the saint of sales yourself, would smoke the common weed known as marijuana?
Well, Ivan, I hate to disappoint you, but even dogs bark once in a while. I have to say, the answer was correct, but the question was wrong.
What do you mean the question was wrong?
Don't talk to Bob that way.
I have spoken.
He has got us all reflecting the word from.
Well, so who's the winner?
I think you are the loser on that question.
How can I lose? But hold on.
Question was wrong.
Well, the question was wrong, but the answer was right. So, well,
The other way around, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
You need to ask fucker.
I think that the right thing to do, Stang, what do you think? Just give the t-shirts to the audience?
Yeah, straight.
The teacher's contestants. So this is what the Church of the Subgenius has been reduced to. What had the potential of actually being the one secret little resistance group, the one with the secret weapon, the one that wouldn't end up like all our predecessors. Here we have been reduced to a Chicken John game show with a prop head, which is, however, inhabited by the spirit of J.R. Bob, praise God! But just so that my friends, be faithful, just so you know that the church is not merely a bloodless search for knowledge, such as we have seen in this show, nor merely a bunch of testosterone-heavy assholes threatening God with warfare. But friends, this is also a church of tits and ass!
Yes!
As well as dicks and butts and so forth.
Yeah.
I happen to like the tits and ass better. And praise Bob, our tits and ass are the highest quality tits and ass because ours are Subgenius Foundation employees such as the great and greatest Saint Nicky Deathchick. Down on your knees, boys, and the lady just had it.
But things have changed.
true followers of the path of dogs. My contribution has been and will continue to be giving you what you really want, which I'm finding out more and more is to be teased and taunted while you feel that delicious forbidden guilt. So for your enjoyment and frustration, I am going to talk about blowjobs. It's sort of the brag of Nicky Deathchick, and it's called My Blowjobs Are So Good. My blowjobs are so good that I will be solely responsible for the second coming. My blowjobs are so good that Bob himself offered to pay me for one, and I told him he didn't have enough money. My blowjobs are so good that they had to rename Deep Throat Shallow Indentation. My blowjobs are so good that they're a felony in most southern states. My blowjobs are so good that I cause rigor mortis in the living. My blowjobs are so good that I make porno actresses reevaluate their career paths. My blowjobs are so good that Connie herself called me up and asked me for lessons. My blowjobs are so good that the Pope declared them a mortal sin. This one's really gross. I'm fond of it. My blowjobs are so good that I regularly need to get my stomach pumped. My blowjobs are so good that my longest blowjob involved time travel. Here's another one along the same lines. My blowjobs are so good that my mouth's gravitational pull is in danger of creating a black hole. I give Stephen Hawking nightmares. My blowjobs are so good that if I ever became a lesbian, the suicide rate would triple overnight. My blowjobs are so good that last time I ate a popsicle in public, I got charged with violating public obscenity laws. My tongue can fold in ways that only MC Escher could understand. Alright, I think you've had about enough bad blowjob jokes for one evening. Alright, I got one more. I didn't write it, but I got one more. Alright. In this Catholic parish, the head priest was out for the day. So a visiting deacon comes in to hear confession. A girl confesses that she just gave someone a blowjob. There's a sheet on the wall of the confessional so the priest can refer to it to give penances for standard sins. But he can't find blowjobs on there. So he goes out and asks an altar boy, what does a pastor usually give for blowjobs? And the altar boy says, oh, about $5. All right, that's enough. And Reverend Nicky Deathchick, please order some shit so I can keep my job.
And now to move our show right along, I'm going to bring before your astonished eyes and ears a visiting preacher from that great northwestern, southwestern place above us all, the city of Lemuria, that lost and vanished mysterious essence. He is here to turn your mind around by so many degrees that you won't know which way it is pointing or why. Let us welcome to our stage the Reverend Onan Canobite.
Friends, I am the Reverend Dr. Onan Canobite, and I didn't come here to give you Subgenius 101, or even to engage in sublimated psychosexual religious behavior on stage, although I assure you, membership does have its privileges. I have come here tonight to initiate each and every one of you into the mysteries of subgenius magic. Now these magic powers of the subgenius are well known in the songs and legends of even the normals. But accessing these powers is something available only to those truly born of the seed of Dot. Therefore, I must ask if there are any members of the conspiracy, normals, pinks, or wannabes, please leave. Please leave now. Yes, that's right. All right then. Those of you who have chosen to remain are obviously able to hold your head up high and say, "Behold, I am a subgenius." Now say it. "Behold, I am a subgenius." And again, "Behold, I am a subgenius." Praise Bob. Now, as you already know, membership in the Church of the Subgenius is the only guaranteed means to survive the coming econo-cataclysm, when the chickens of the conspiracy will, in fact, come home to roost. Power outages in California, weird weather patterns, mad cow disease, and even the election of President W will soon enough seem like the idols of a golden age. Soon enough, your house will crumble with the disease of matter, more commonly known as crop circles. The giant spiders that live between the fake stars and the artificial sky will drop down before you and consume your friends in cocoons of silk before your eyes, leaving you helpless, hopeless, able only to shriek. You'll even try and get online, and the line will be busy. That's right, these are the end times. Bob has told us so. And only Bob can guide us through these times of trial so that we might not only live, laugh, and love, but cash the endless wheelbarrows full of signed blank checks rolling into the Subgenius Foundation each and every day. Praise Bob! Praise Bob! Bob wants his militia well armed for these, the end times. Armed with our guns and our knives, armed with our claws, armed with our fangs, but armed, yes, for spiritual warfare, for psychic warfare. That is why I am here to initiate, to awaken in each one of you your latent magic powers of subgeniality. And these are latent powers. You were born with them. You were born with the sure knowledge of them, but only the sure company of your fellow subgenii may bring them to unwholesome life. Let us begin with the powers of the mind. The next time you find yourself at work or at school and you're bored and you're surrounded by a sea of pinkness, just let your mind wander. Let your mind venture forth to a time in the distant past or the distant future when you could have a dinosaur or a robot dinosaur or a pet or a friend or a lover. Think of a time when everything you needed would come to you floating on little rafts on streams of pure, clear water. Yes, with practice, you can master the subgenius art of half-astral projection. Proficient in ESP or extra subgenius perception, yes, can do the amazing. You can tell others what is on your mind. Solo practitioners of all 5 genders can practice the art of palm reading. And no matter how much the man tries to harsh your mellow, you can uplift yourself and make light of the situation through levity. You can say, fuck them if they can't take a joke. Woo! You can say, fuck them if they can't take a joke! Fuck them if they can't take a joke! superpowers that you're entitled to as a subgenius. Using my subgenius sales techniques proven by dogs, I can read in your auras. You know the magnitude of the con job the conspiracy has pulled on you. In the Church of the Subgenius, however, we program, deprogram, and reprogram our own zombies. We can get drunk off plain water while pouring fine wine down the drain. We can make a Salsier out of a silk purse. We call down the thunderbolts of Jupiter. We strike the original face of Buddha, and we give the finger to Allah. And we don't mock the gods out of just rage or resentment. We have a special subgenius kind of chummy relationship with the ascended masters and the higher powers. And for those of you who are atheist subgeniuses, you can even mock the non-existent gods. Every time you can divine the hidden truth buried deep in the low-budget and terrible directing of a B-movie. And why do you think they call it a B-movie? You are practicing your subgenius mind-reading powers. And every time you can tell that you're just kind of sitting around slacking off and you're about to get in trouble. You're not in trouble yet, you're about to get in trouble. And you start to look really busy. What we in the Church of the Subgenius call that clairavoyance. Using my own subgenius powers, having walked among you and read your auras earlier, I can assure you that each and every person in this hut will die. Not only that, yes, that's kind of a general prediction. Not only that, you will die within 6 months of your birthday. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. Now, not all of the powers of the subgenius are mental or psychic, ephemeral, and maybe some of you don't even believe me that these powers even exist. You need to see something physical. Proof? Proof? Well, for one thing, the subgenius can eat, drink, smoke, snort, or shoot anything you want. And it might hurt you, or it might kill you. It might make you lose all your friends and your job and stuff, but you can do it! A subgenius can, we were talking tongues earlier, a subgenius can stick out their tongue and touch their forehead. And through the science of excremeditation, a subgenius may achieve the void, turn gold into lead, and achieve the bliss consciousness found within. Now, most subgeniuses, like most superheroes or supervillains, have one or two special superpowers that they use for good, for evil, a little of both usually. And for the first time on stage in Tucson, I am going to demonstrate some of my superpowers. First off, the first superpower of the evening. And as I do this, please be thinking of your own superpower that you'd be willing to share with the rest of us here on stage. My first superpower is I can stick my belly out real far. Praise God. Please, come up on the stage. Is your name?
Samantha.
Samantha, what is your superpower?
I'm actually a car alarm. I just look like a human.
Not a human, a car alarm.
Well, right now my name is Friend of Chupacabra.
Friend! What is your superpower?
Well, chicks dig me.
Chicks! Damn! Yeah! Chicks really quite sure what the hell to do with that. Not sure what to do with it. 2 superpowers.
But I also, as well, am a car alarm.
Car alarm. Car alarm, chicks digging. Now, one more superhero and or supervillain. What is your name?
I am he who has been there from the beginning. And I have seen the blackness in all of your souls. It is the subgenii bub that needs to be penetrated by each of you collectively, but you don't do it. And the question is why? Why are you so lost and lovely? Why are you standing there so blankly? You have no excuses for standing there just staring at me. Who am I? I'm no one. You don't know me. I have been familiar with this lostness for a long time, and each of you needs to drink booze. Booze! Now! Booze! Quick! Quick! Quick!
Drink booze quick. A superpower we can all identify with. Now, we've had a lot of fun and games tonight, but I would be remiss if I failed to address the dark path, the left-hand side, the black arts of the subgenius. Yes, using their own ritual thinking, a subgenius can cloud their own mind and convince themselves that they're too ugly or too weird to ask somebody out on a date. The subgenius can hypnotize themselves into all sorts of unreasonable behavior, like staying at a bad job. A subgenius can put a cloud over any attempt to be happy. A subgenius can even render themselves invisible. So now that you know of your superpowers, what will you do with them? When you awaken tomorrow, will you be a hideous monster that's 1,000 years old? Or will you be a beautiful mutant that's 1,000,000 years young? Slack may not be in your reach, but it is within your grasp. Now, grasp it and praise God. Here endeth the sermon from the narrator.
The Reverend Onan Canobite, a very pure subgenius soul, ladies and gentlemen. It is our privilege to have him here. And speaking of privilege, even though our time here with Bob will soon draw to a close, we are going to give you another example of slack. Oh, you've heard a lot about slack tonight, but besides being what a subgenius craves and must have at all costs, is it any more than the opposite of tension? What is the most stereotypical picture of slack you can imagine? Just think of yourself on a tropical isle, while the phosphorescent surf crashes and you are copulating with a beautiful princess or prince, as your choice may be. What sort of music would fill your ears? Probably something very similar to the musical stylings of our own Duke of Uke from the great Pacific Northwest. Let us welcome the Duke of Uke, His Grace, to our stage. His Grace, the Duke of Uke, ladies and gentlemen. That was inspired ukulele plucking. Surely the lyre of Orpheus itself elicited not such sweet notes before his female followers tore him into bloody pieces in an excess of orgasmic adornment. Well, folks, we have only a few more acts. I'd like to say that although we have come from afar to bring you the subgenius doctrine in its many forms, there is one Tucsonan who has secretly been bringing it to you all along, and you know him very well. He is coming now to present before you a new type of entertainment, and his name is Tucson's own Matt Bevel.
Welcome once again to Pray for the Weak, our chance to worship the victims of helplessness every 7 days. A helpful practice, some might call it, a sucker to loot, go for the wallet. It's heaven sent, so come repent, with a hyper bent, meet thee often spent. So therefore, flaccid, feeble, frail, in witness for which all can see, I promise I will pray for you if you will be prayed for me. Bring in the parental guardians for unexpected praise, to treat the metaphorical misconception with his glorious eyes ever gazing upon you, with his glorious balls ever spewing the torturous smoke upon your funky soul. The old ways are no good, the new ways are no better. Every way leads away from the way it is. We must continue to be aware, for the past is no present for the future. So join with us as we pray for the weak, as they find the forgivable strength to overcome the suffering of grace, to join with us again next time as Pray for the Weak. As it was the way I said it, is not the way I meant it. I'll eat my words if you eat yours. Slap back at you! Brother Jeff, thank you.
winding down, but I see that so many of you are still here. This speaks well for Tucson's subgenial substratum. Ivan Stang may be back. If you weren't here before, he already spoke, but he will speak again, because one thing we believe in this church is to be thorough. I know it may have seemed a long time that you've been here listening to all the various doctors of the Church of the Subgenius, but as far as cosmic time is concerned, a mere bubble of froth on the wine that old Father Time is slugging down. Because time is of an immense and terrifying length, and lustrums and epicycles of cosmic time have passed to wash away earlier civilizations like so much detritus down a downspout. And now, with the aid, which will come into it fairly soon, of my brother and partner, Dr. Yagrundis Quimby Jr., we're going to attempt to bring you back to an ancient time, if we may have our theme of music, and I believe we have it, don't we? Oh no, that sounds unlikely. Here it is. So, try to imagine all the treasures that are buried in the earth that will never be recovered. The knowledge of the Church of the Subgenius is like those things. I would like to try to take you fairly far back now, not into ages of history or even paleontology, but mythology, and I crave your indulgence. When the moon was new and the sun young, of silver and gold the gods sung. They buried their gold under green hills in hollow dells. But their doom fell and their song waned, by iron hewn and by steel chained. Greed that sang not, nor with mouth smiled, in dark holes their wealth piled. Graven silver and carven gold, over elven home the shadow rolled. There was an old dwarf in a dark cave. To silver and gems his fingers played. With hammer and tongs and anvil stone, he worked his hands to the hard bone. And coins he made, and strings of rings, and sought to buy the power of kings. But his eyes grew dim, and his ears dull, and the skin grew yellow on his old skull. Through his bony claw, with a pale sheen, the stony jewels slipped unseen. No feet he heard, though the earth shaked, when the young dragon his thirst slaked. The steam hissed at his dark door, the flames smoked on the dank floor, and he died alone in the red fire. His bones were ashes in the hot mire. There was an old dragon under great stone. His red eyes blinked as he lay alone. His joy was fled and his youth spent. He was wrinkled and knobbed and his limbs bent in the long years to his gold chain. In his heart's furnace the fire waned. To his belly's slime gems stuck thick. Silver and gold he would snuff and lick. He knew the place of the least ring underneath the shadow of his black wing. Of thieves he thought on his hard bed, and dreamed that on their flesh he fed. Their bones crushed and their blood drank. His ears drooped and his breath sank. Mail rings rang, he heard them not. A voice echoed in his deep grot. A young warrior with a bright sword called him forth to defend his horde. His teeth were knives, and of horn his hide, but iron tore him, and his flame died. There was an old king on a high throne. His white beard lay on knees of bone. His mouth savored neither meat nor drink, nor his ears song. He could only think of his huge chest with its carven lid, where pale gems and gold lay hid. in secret treasury of the dark ground. Its strong doors were with iron bound. The swords of his thanes were dull with rust, his glory fallen, his rule unjust, his halls hollow, his bowers cold, but king he was of elvish gold. He heard not the horns in the mountain pass, he smelt not the blood on the trodden grass, but his halls were burned, his kingdom lost. In a cold pit, his bones were tossed. There is an old horde under dark rock, forgotten behind doors none can unlock. That grim gate no man can pass. On the mound grows the green grass, there the sheep feed and the larks soar, and the wind blows from the seashore. The old horde the night shall keep, while earth waits and the elves sleep. Doctor? We are going to speak to you now about some of your local deities and monsters.
Simple monsters, so-called cryptozoological creatures such as the infamous Mokilim, Bele, the Chupacabra, the Wirium, the Mokilim, that kind of thing.
They seem enthusiastic about the Chupacabra.
They're always enthusiastic about the Chupacabra, you know, Dr. Howard.
It is one of the most engaging local monsters, is it not?
Well, it's local, and that's one of the reasons why they're not.
Well, what is the description of this beast that has often been made?
Well, I personally believe that the Chupacabra is actually not a flying goat, as it is described.
That does seem improbable.
Or a humanoid creature with arms and so forth, but is actually a Tyrannosaurus, a Cretaceous flying reptile, whose wingspan was approximately 27 feet, and whose body was about the size of a goose, with a long skull crest about 7 feet. And this creature comes from the valley of Guanji, which is in nearby Mexico.
That's right, in Mexico's remote Sierra Madre Oriental.
Exactly.
Prehistoric dinosaurs still roam the earth.
And they gronk and gronk.
I'll bet you didn't know that.
Yes, well, they gronk and gronk because they are dinosaurs. At any rate, this Chupacabra, as it's known by locals, flies up from the valley of Guanji and occasionally pecks off someone's head or eats their chickens or lands and does an enormous bowel movement in the back of their pickup truck.
Don't tell them more than they want to know. But
I'm sorry.
Are you able to duplicate on your device the sound that this beast makes?
Well, I don't know.
Well, we owe it to our audience to give them some audio example.
Oh, some kind of.
Well, it seems that
What makes some kind of noise here?
it makes some sort of cry. That sounds about right. An insensate chirping, a shrieking, an intolerable sound like rabbits screaming.
Yes, much like rabbits screaming.
But if you hear it, you're already a goner. But what else is out there, lurking in the desert? We know about the menace of giant spiders, but what else?
Well, what about the Mokilim Bembe, which is actually thought to be a South American or an African creature, but
Yes, that is in
nevertheless does exist in the Arizona desert in Saguaro National Monument.
Well, that's
East
news to me. I thought it was native to the Congo Basin. But when you're out among the cacti and the strange spikes and spires of the desert in a moonlit night, anything seems possible, even being confronted by this or many another improbable monster.
Hell, I've seen it. I've seen toads and all goddamn kinds of things crawling around in there. And that Mokilim Bembe is just as real here as it is in the grottos and the South American basin and so forth. It's not wet, you know. It's not a big slimy dino. It's kind of dry, sort of like our own Bufo Gigans gorillas.
Dry like a martini.
psychedelic toad.
Yes, there are psychedelic toads.
Yes.
Like the ones that fly through space.
Well, yes, that's the Bufo gigans horribilis, which is enormous thing famous for.
And there are other things that fly through space. The UFOs, the mysterious lights that have been seen out in the desert.
Yes, lights in the desert. That's something that we have around here, you know, with all our Air Force bases. You know, the reason why they call it Area 51 is because it's not the only one.
There have to be at least 50 others.
Yes, exactly, and most of them are located in Arizona.
That's right, folks. They're local. Well, is there any other creature we want to tell the people about? I know we have to...
Well, what about
the Muriels, the Wendigos?
What about the Duendes?
Why don't you make the sound that these creatures make, and I'll describe the Duende a little bit. You know, every community, every race, every country knows about those little guys, the little men, the leprechauns, the dwarfs, whatever they are. They may seem cute in cartoons or on your TV screen, but meeting them is a different proposition entirely. And the Duende is like a 3-foot-high mummy that drifts like a dead leaf toward you and then fastens its sharp teeth on your human flesh and drains the blood and life out of you. Well, I hope you're safe from all these things, but as a public service, the Church of the Subgenius has brought you this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, the erudite Dr. Euronymous Quimby Jr.
Thank you.
And I am Dr. Helen Dowell. All right, folks. To move this show closer and closer to its inevitable end, I am now going to bring back upon the stage the Reverend Ivan Stang.
Okay, great. Friends, some of us here are sub-geniuses, and that means that for some of us, life may be barely tolerable, but as long, friends, as there's that one barest little smidgen of slack, that's your hint, your personal hint from Yakutisma Central, that slack still exists somewhere, and that alone is a reason enough for you to keep going. To keep you sniffing around that hook until you give up, quit resisting, and bite that hook and let Bob pull you up into his frying pan. If you must die, let Bob do it. Let Bob kill you. Don't try to fucking do it yourself. If you've been such a terrible loser this far, then killing yourself is probably also another one of your dumb ideas. So throw up your arms in true resignation, friends, and let the essence of Bob sweep you along. Look at that face, friends. You can be alone with Bob. Now, when a disaster happens, as I was saying earlier, that could just be your hidden miracle chance for what we call involuntary slack. You give up on what you were expecting, happiness, and wait and see what Bob delivers, friends. Bob's happiness might be a hell of a lot happier than the happiness you had planned for yourself. Remember, nobody is perfect, least of all that asshole who is giving you so much shit. And Bob, we are all fucked up, and Bob is the biggest fuck up of them all. The luckiest fuck up. So hitch your wagon to the fucked upness of Bob, my friend. Reinforce and reaffirm that $30 commitment, that special bribe for Bob, that bribe for you, and then rock it away, friends. Rock it away. Don't just drag your feet. If you can't help push, just remember the first of Bob's 5 keys to magic, which is get off your ass. And besides, remember, no matter how bad things get, there's always 4X Day. You only need to stay alive until then. We may have been double-crossed on Dos Equis, and we may have gotten royally screwed on Triple X Day, but we will get safely fucked by Bob on 4X Day, my friend. Anyway, they say that, for all we know, maybe the Exodus did get here, and they're just taking their time with the roach. They say that alien science would seem like magic to us. Well, maybe really advanced alien science would seem more like coincidence. Notice any interesting coincidences lately? I'll let you figure that one out for yourself, friends. Good. But remember, you can't just sit around. You're not Bob, and you can't sit around and just feel lucky. When you feel lucky, you are taunting knee-deep. You are saying, oh, you are ineffective, knee-deep. Come and get me. So, friends, you better be damn careful about that shit. Folks, when I got here to Tucson, I had a great time. I drove around, showed the desert, chased by giant javelinas and huge tarantulas. Went to the greatest bar in Arizona, if not the whole country, the Meat Rack. And we had this revival. And the whole reason any of this shit happened is because of this stupid asshole here. Crawford Smith.
I did it again.
Face fucking fat stone antidote plumbing anywhere in Tucson.
First come, first served. Move in an orderly manner. Do not trample or kick your fellow sub-geniuses. All will be made plain.